Okay, good morning. Here we are at Livermore Airport. I spent a lot of time here in real life. And now I'm here on Flight Sim. We're going to take a little lap around the traffic pattern. Actually, we're going to take several laps around the pattern. Today, I will be flying the Cessna Caravan. Now, this is an airplane that in real life, I have zero experience flying this airplane. I've flown similar, but that's why this is Flight Sim, right? You get to try new things, and once you know the basics of piloting an airplane, a lot of things cross over. Obviously, different models are unique with airspeeds and procedures and checklists and all that stuff. So I've been kind of just playing around with this recently here. So forgive me if not everything is my best flying. This is not real life, though. I think that's important to say. I'm mostly kind of just having fun here, but I also want to explain a few things along the way, like what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, and all that. So I've lined us up on runway 25 right. Everything here inside the flight deck is pretty much ready to go. I think I can zoom out there. See, like I said, I'm still figuring out everything. Here's the inside of what the plane looks like. There's a lot of rows of seats back there. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Plus pilot and co-pilot up front. Nice Garmin avionics suite here. That's pretty cool. Glass instruments. And yeah, everything is set and ready to rock. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's make sure we're set to go. Flaps 15 for takeoff. Trim looks good. Lights, I think everything's pretty much already been set. I believe I do have the parking brake on. Let's apply full power. Engine instruments are in the green. Take the parking brake off. So I don't have rudder pedals. That's another thing here. I'm actually steering with my fingers kind of on these little back trigger buttons. Airspeed's coming alive. Let's say I'm 50 knots rotate, 55 knots rotate. There it is, 55 rotate. Positive rate. If this were a retractable, I'd bring the gear up now. I'm going to take the power back just a little bit. And now that I'm at a safe altitude, I will bring my flaps up clean. Airplane might sink a little bit. And I do hear it barking at me in the background. Don't sink, don't sink. That's kind of a thing on this airplane. I'm not sure why it's enunciating that to me, but anyway. All right, 100 knots airspeed here in the climb. I'm in the upwind. I'm going to reduce my power to a climb setting instead of the takeoff setting. I'm through 1,000 feet. I'm making a left-hand pattern here at Livermore off of runway 25 right, which is not conventional. Typically, I'd fly the right-hand pattern, but the thing is, and by the way, 1,300 for 1,400 feet, so I'm going to reduce the power, let the nose come down. Traffic pattern out here is 1,400 feet. I'm flying a left-hand pattern off of 25 right because the visibility just on this game, left crosswind, and pretty soon I'll be in the left downwind. There's my 1,400 feet, so I'll start to level off here. I'm flying the left-hand pattern for visibility. It's just a lot easier for me to see the runway, see the turns I'm making when I can kind of see ahead instead of trying to look out the opposite window. Okay, so one thing already that I've busted on, like I'm at 1,500 feet. I wasn't paying attention. I've got too many things going on here. You know, like live streaming, talking my way through this. That being said, I'm at 1,400 now, and I should be able to talk my way through this. That's kind of what instructing was all about back in the day. So I've got a good power setting here. I'm established in the downwind. I'm what's called abeam the airport. This is a term used a lot in aviation where if you look out, not that way, but if you look out to the left of the airplane, there's the airport over there. So I'm basically flying a parallel path off of runway 25. I'm obviously flying the reciprocal direction of a heading of 070, but I am established in the downwind, and right now I'm what's called abeam the numbers. So I'm parallel, but also perpendicular to the approach end of runway 25 right. Okay, so let's start our descent here. I'm going to bring the power back, and as soon as that nose starts to come down, I'm going to put my first 10 degrees of flaps in like I just did. Want to make sure the nose keeps coming down. Obviously, it's going to want to pitch up a little bit there. That's kind of a normal thing with high-wing airplanes, especially Cessnas. More airflow directed down on the horizontal stabilizer and back. It's going to want to push the the nose up just a little bit. So now I'm left downwind here into left base. For runway 25, I'm at 94 knots. That's fine, still descending. I need to come down more. I'm all the way up still at 1,300 feet, but I'm also farther away from the runway than I probably need to be. I could have made this pattern a little bit more tight. So I'm gonna reduce the power just a little bit. I'm gonna bring in my full flaps here as I roll out from left base to final. Now, can you see the airport? Can you see the airport? No, you can't. Pretty soon you will. And hopefully my turn here, whoop, overshot it just a little bit. See that? So again, if I could actually see that better, I wouldn't have overshot it. That was kind of a blind guess, and that's what you got. Okay, I am probably a little bit slower than I want to be. 67, 68 knots. I'll give it a little bit more power. Probably want to be 70-something here on final and maintain that. So I want a nice stabilized approach. I am right of center line. I still have not corrected that. The other thing I'm going to do as I get closer here is move my seat up. See what I just did there? I went from moving the panel from it being higher to me sitting up a little bit higher. And this kind of replicates a better, more realistic situation of landing where you can actually see kind of the engine cowling there out the front. And I'm going to trim the nose up just a little bit, 60 knots, kind of slow, but also kind of high. So I'll trade some altitude for airspeed to let it come down a little bit. Kind of slowly bring that power out. And just hold this nose up. Hold it up. I'm a little right of center line. I do know that. Try and correct that here with some steering. Let the nose slowly come down. So, again, not on the center line. Well, I'm getting back to it right there. Let's bring the flaps up. Throw that power back in there. And look at that. Whoa, easy there, buddy. All right, airplane wanted to fly pretty quick. See, now that's a situation where in real life, you would start to feel all of that. And instead here on Flight Sim, the nose pitching up there, so I kind of had to massage it off the ground. All right, let me bring the cockpit back like that. Pretty soon here at a safe altitude, I will bring up the flaps. So, again, I'm just learning this plane. I'm learning this game. I'm learning the characteristics of it. I would push the power in a lot slower there on a touch and go, knowing that I'm going to get to rotation speed pretty quick. I also left 10 degrees or 15 degrees on the flaps, which increased my getting in the air sooner. Made for a shorter takeoff roll, essentially. All right, through 1,000 feet, looking for 1,400. I'm in the upwind, turning left crosswind. Again, if you're just tuning in, you're saying, well, wait, isn't it a right-hand pattern off runway 25 right? Yes, it is. But for the sake of visibility for me in this game, so I can see the runway just a little bit better, I'm going to fly a left-hand pattern. All right, 1,280 feet, looking for 1,400 feet. And so what I'm doing here as I turn left downwind, this is called flying the traffic pattern. And this is something that when you are learning how to fly, you do this over and over and over and over and over until you've mastered the art of landing an airplane. Now, like I said before, every plane is different, characteristics. There, I've leveled off at, 1440, so slightly high. I'll fix that. I really want to nail my altitudes, right? I'm in the downwind here. I'm actually a little bit closer to the airport than I probably should be, but again, when you can't just look out the window and see that, it's harder for me just to only have that view right there, or even that view. Plus, I'm messing around with the views. This is the part of Flight Sim that's less realistic, right? The perspective of the pilot, the sensations and the perspectives. But hey, you know what? Landing there and the flare and managing energy, all that stuff, pretty realistic, I gotta say. I mean, there's a lot of things here that give you good repetitions and practice in flying an airplane. Now, I'm flying a little bit angled away from the runway. My heading's probably 080 instead of, well, it's 085. I can see it on the screen. Instead of 070 because I was a little bit in tight on the runway there before. I'm well past a beam the numbers, so I'm gonna bring my power back, let the nose come down, start that descent. I'm in flap range at 100 knots, so I'm gonna slow back and keep my descent coming. going to keep a little bit more power in here last time. I think I got a little bit slow at the end. I don't mind doing, you know, 80 knots here, 80-something knots on the base leg. That's fine. Turning left base, it's important that I keep the nose coming down. That's kind of a common mistake, honestly, of a lot of beginning pilots, is that in that base leg, they don't keep the descent coming, and then all of a sudden they turn base to final, and they're like, whoa, I'm way high. What happened here? So let me try and avoid a potential own mistake here. All right, left base, how we looking? Runway out there? Yes, it is. I'm going to start my turn to final. I've only got 15 in on the flaps. I'm at 90 knots. Kind of slowing down here. Bring the power back. I'll bring the flaps in full. Now this time I'm not overshooting the runway, which is good. Gonna roll out pretty much, well, maybe even a little bit short of it here. I'll do a slow rollout. I'm a little bit slow. It says I'm a little bit high. The VASI out there is too white. So I'll keep the power in a little bit. All right, I'm there. I'm right of center line again. I keep having that issue here. But again, in real life, I don't think I've ever had that issue here. Flaps are full, keep it coming down, 60 knots, probably a little bit slow here, but I do have the altitude to play with, so keep the power in, keep the descent coming down. See if I can nail the center line better this time. All right, slowly bring the power back, slowly. And just hold that nose right there, hold it, oh, right there. Maybe a little bit stiffer than I wanted even. It wasn't ready to touch down yet. I wanted to hold that float a little bit longer. Okay, flaps all the way up. Trim is pretty much set. Got a lot of runway left. This thing's going to take off quick, so let's go ahead and throw all the power back in there. Look at that. We're already back almost up to flying speed. 50 knots, 55, rotate. Okay, right? That was a lot more controlled than the first time what you guys witnessed. Bring this panel back down here. Right, and that's just learning the airplane. Obviously, you would do your flight training in a checkout situation for this airplane. You would do it with somebody who's flown it a bunch. So you would learn that very quick, that perhaps on a go-around you want to bring all the flaps up. All right, so from takeoff power setting, I'll bring it back to climb power setting here, so I'm not just, you know, in the red entirely. Through 1,100 feet already, start my left crosswind turn. Yeah, flaps are already up, I was just double checking that. 1,200 feet in the left crosswind turn. 1,300 feet. This plane is climbing well today. I'm established in my left crosswind. I'm going to fly the crosswind just a little bit longer here, so I get a little bit farther away from the airport than I was last time. I'd probably do 2 more laps here in the pattern and then call it a day. Now, flight training, sometimes you'll do 6, 7 laps, 8 laps in the pattern, 12 laps in the pattern maybe when you are in the process of learning how to land the airplane, take off, all that airport operation stuff. All right, getting set up here in the downwind at, look at that, 1,400 feet precisely, at about 120 knots. And I kind of like this airspeed a little bit better. In my flying, I don't know, was it yesterday or the day before? I was kind of looking at power settings and airspeeds, and, you know, what am I at here? 59% on the power. That kept me at a pretty good, like, traffic pattern speed, 120s or so airspeed-wise. All right, at 1,400 feet. Again, I'm gonna angle myself out here away from the airport another, I don't know, 5 degrees or so. So, well, actually more than that, 0, 7, 8, almost 10 degrees. We'll look back over to the left. So right now I'm abeam the numbers, right? I'm abeam the touchdown zone of runway 25 right. But I'm gonna give myself just a little bit more time here. Power back. Let the nose start to sink a little bit. Let the nose come down. As soon as I sense that nose coming down, right about there. There's my 10 of flaps. I'm gonna start my left base turn. Again, on the base leg. Keep that nose coming down. And keeping the nose down will also help me with the airspeed, right? When you're turning here in tight at low altitudes, airspeed's important. You want to really be cautious of your stall speed. All right, I'm on left base here at about 90 knots. Keep the nose down. Wants to keep coming up on me, so I'm going to keep making sure that we continue our descent. Going a little bit fast here, at 90 knots or so. So I want to make sure I don't bust right through the center line here. I roll out on final. Oh, a little bit shallow. Look at that. So I'm going to dogleg it. And again, this is where normally I would look out the left window of the airplane and see the runway. Flaps full. A little bit more power here. But I couldn't see it right there. Getting a little bit slow for comfort. Dipping through below 70 knots. I'm going to keep the power in here. So I'm kind of dragging this in a little bit more than normal. 70 knots, and I got a pretty high power setting. So I'm kind of behind the power curve on this one. But that's fine. We can still make a good landing so long as I can actually get on center line here. Okay, I'll sit up a little bit higher to see the cowling. We've got the runway made, so I'm going to slowly start bringing the power back. Looking pretty good on center line. Airspeed's just fine. Just inside 70. So here's the 3 phases. Descent, descent, descent. Bring the power back. Level off. I leveled off a little bit high, so I'm going to slowly let it sink. Slowly let it sink right there on the touchdown markers. All right. Well, not the smoothest landing ever, but again, it's not real life. All right, one more time. Let's see if I can end on a good landing. Flaps are up. Power's set. Let me steer this thing down the center line. 50 knots, 55, rotate. Positive rate. Sit down in the seat here. It's telling me don't sink again. 80 knots or so in the climb. I'm going to go from takeoff setting to climb power setting. It's just a little bit less. You can see out the front of the airplane. And then behind it, if you want to look at the, no, this way. There's the old Livermore outlet mall over there. All right, let's start at left crosswind here. Man, it really does not want me to sink. It keeps telling me that. I won't sink, don't worry. All right, roll out here on the crosswind. 1,200 for 1,400 feet here. That's the traffic pattern altitude at Livermore. And again, yes, I am flying a left-hand pattern off of runway 25 right. Just not how it goes at Livermore, but that's what I'm doing today. All right, coming up on 1,400 feet in the crosswind to downwind turn. Look at that, 1420. So almost nailing the altitude that I'm supposed to be at. You got to aim for precision here, right? Like, what's the idea of flying if you're not going to actually hold yourself to the highest standards? Speaking of that, I've lost 60 feet. Let's get back up to 1,400 here, Brazil. Come on. In the downwind at about 114 knots, and again, maybe that's difference in a power setting. Last time I was here at about 118 knots, 19, 20 knots. So I can speed that up with just a little bit of, and it's gonna increase here the longer I'm leveled off, but it's just a power setting thing. All right, I am past the numbers in the downwind, so I can bring the power back a little bit, let the nose come down. As soon as it comes down, there's my 10 degrees or 15 degrees of flaps. Livermore out there, Tracy's beyond the Altamont Pass. You should probably be able to see Mount Diablo here somewhere in the left base leg. Keep my descent coming at about 90 knots. I'm going to use a little bit more power this time. I love how on this game the shadows all come into play. There's Mount Diablo right over there. There's Mount Diablo. Okay, so I'm in the downwind, 90 knots. Got an airport out there? Yes, we do. Oh, keep the descent coming, Brazil. Start kind of more of a shallow base to final turn here. So hopefully I can pick up this runway, be right on the center line. There it is. All right, flaps full at about 85 knots. I'm kind of dog-legging it here again. I said I didn't want to do that. I still did it. All right, so airspeeds are looking good, about 75 knots. Stabilized approach here on final. Right of the center line a little bit. Getting a little bit slow at 70 knots. Try and correct that. All right, a little bit high. Somebody else is out there on the runway, by the way. I do see that. But again, this is Flight Sim, and I'm here to land, so too bad. Oh, let me sit up here. Slowly bring the power back. Level it off. Now let me hold this flare a little bit better this time. A little bit better. Nope, 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 nope. There we go. Touch it gently. There we go. See, I landed and you didn't even know. Reverse thrust. Hey, who's that? What's that guy doing over there? What was that airplane doing over there? I'll bring the flaps up. We'll taxi around a little bit. We can kind of talk about the flight. Normally I would have taken that exit right there. I'm also not really good at taxiing this airplane yet, at least with the hand triggers here. So I'm using all of this like 5,600 foot runway, way more than I normally would. See if I can keep this on center line here. I know I'm not even close, but I also had a problem turning this airplane earlier. Like it didn't want to. There we go. That's not too bad. It wanted to only do like super wide turns. So I'm using the right rudder, and I'm also using a little bit of brake here to do this. And it's funny because in an airplane, you actually taxi with your feet, your rudder pedals. You steer with your rudder pedals, which are the bottom part. I'll give it a little bit of power here. Oh, I'm still in reverse. That's probably an issue, isn't it? See, I wasn't in reverse, though. I don't know why. Sometimes the game is a little bit finicky when I already hit the button. You got to give it a little bit of juice to get the wheels moving here and get some momentum, and then bring the power back. Anyway, what I was saying is you use your feet to taxi, and we'll go pull up right by the parking spot near the tower here with the ramp. But a lot of beginning student pilots, they want to steer. See what I'm doing right now is I'm zoom in here a little bit better. When I do that, you see the ailerons on the wings moving right there? So steering like this is how you would do a car, but it's doing virtually nothing. It should do absolutely nothing when it comes to, slow down here, when it comes to steering this airplane on the ground. But like I said, that's the learned behavior of how to steer a car. So a lot of people try and instantly steer an airplane that way. Yes, I realize I'm way off the center line here. That's not good. Don't judge me on that. Gonna taxi back over here to the ramp. Oh look, somebody's over there to marshal me in. Normally, and I'm using a little bit of power here to get me through this turn. I don't want to hit those guys on the left. But I think that's the parking space over there. Here, I will steer to this far spot over here. Watch my wingtip clearance. Watch out, guys. Usually they would be a little bit more productive in helping me. All right, that's so crooked. That's such a bad way to end it, but how's it going? But that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, normally you'd want to end a lot straighter than that. So there it is, the Grand Caravan, November 6 Bravo Bravo. I just hit the parking brakes. You can kind of see inside. Throttle quadrant, trim wheel, controls, all the avionics in here, autopilot, panel, lights, other avionics. The backup gauges here, the steam gauges, airspeed, attitude, altimeter. That's a torque gauge over there for the engine. So, all right, we did it. We made it. We landed. And I'm gonna call it a flight. So thanks for coming along. I had some fun. I hope you did too. And we'll do this another time. See you later.